Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. Today is December 7th, 2017. The United Nations General Assembly on Monday adopted Japan's resolution for nuclear nonproliferation. Michael, it's a big deal.
I don't know if it's a big deal. A few countries this time walked away from previous support for Japan's annual putting out of this declaration. And it's not because they're changed. It's because the declaration has changed. The Abe administration, in trying to, one could say, either be more honest or be more
inclusive,
or what they would probably call proactive pacifism, does not absolutely condemn the existence of nuclear weapons to the extent that anti-nuclear activists, particularly the Nobel Prize-winning group, international group that won the Nobel Prize for being anti-nuclear, ICANN, they feel really betrayed by Japan. And Japan, in many ways, is the linchpin of the anti-nuclear movement worldwide. And you can't really name another country which has greater influence over the whole. First of all, of course, because Japan is the only country that has ever been bombed using nuclear weapons.
As a flag bearer, as a standard bearer.
But then more importantly, because Japan is a high technology nation, it has a very large, currently mostly mothballed civilian nuclear reactor program. It has the capacity, which has never been turned on, to separate plutonium out of waste fuel. And it currently is sitting on 44 tons of separated plutonium, which is enough for thousands of nuclear weapons. But it has never developed them. And Japan's, with that technological capacity, matched by Japan's immense launch vehicles for satellites, that's basically a nuclear deterrent.
If anybody could, they could.
They could,
right.
But they don't. And as long as Japan doesn't, then Japan serves to weld together the non-proliferation regime. So that any sign of wavering by Japan puts up people's antenna immediately and starts worries about, is Japan starting down the road to its own self-defense, its own deterrent, and thereby destroying this very delicate but extremely successful non-proliferation regime that has existed since the 1960s.
Right. Getting a resolution adopted by the United Nations is a pretty big deal. I mean, that's not easy stuff.
No, and it's expensive, too. Japan clearly has to pay what amount to bribes to many smaller countries in order to get them to vote for their particular resolutions in the General Assembly. That's one of the great things about the General Assembly. It's a bazaar where you can trade votes for cash. Not quite openly on the floor, but certainly Japan's aid programs and the aid programs of many large countries, including China, are often tied to the behavior of weaker and smaller governments in the United Nations General Assembly. And then that really gets a lot of play when small nations make it up into the Security Council. Then they're in Fat City, because they can really ask for all kinds of goodies from the Permanent Five. Now, Japan's not a member of the Permanent Five of the Security Council, even though it's been on the Security Council more times than any other country except Brazil. Those two countries currently share the record for the most times being a non-permanent member. And that's having to do, in Japan's case, with its ability to dispense cash. Any sign that, Japan wants to make some changes is also going to cost cash, and certainly must have in this case. They got some countries moved away, some countries moved closer on the Japanese resolution, and it's in this case ideology only plays a small part.
Isn't it really a branding issue? Japan wants to be known as the nuclear non-proliferator, and we can show you through our example that you don't need to develop nuclear weapons.
And that's precisely what the counter-argument is. This is why devalue your brand? Why in any way change what is and has been an extremely successful image? And it is image because Japan is defended by nuclear weapons. It just happens to be not Japanese ones. It is that incredible switcheroo that Japan does with saying, we hate nuclear weapons, we have the three non-nuclear principles. We do not possess, we do not allow the transit, we do not have the stationing of nuclear weapons on our territory. All these wonderful moral stances. And the moment there is even the slightest hint that the United States nuclear force may not be used to defend any part of Japan, they immediately freak out.
Sure.
So that even when you're talking about worthless rocks like the Senkaku Islands,
right.
and they are worthless rocks, whoever it is who thinks that they're worth something is just selling you an idea. What they really want to know that those worthless rocks will be treated as Japanese territory worthy of up unto nuclear war to defend.
Right.
That's
right.
the joke about this whole thing, is that Japan gets to play both sides.
Well, the other part of this is that North Korea is practicing, with their technology and trying to become a nuclear country, a country that can throw its weight around.
And that's what gives the Abe administration the ability to make these changes. They can say that, and they say with really insulting frequency, Japan is in the most severe security situation it has been since the end of World War II. Now, that is absolutely false. It has been in seriously much more danger many other times in history. But it is their rhetoric, and it gives them the in on adapting, manipulating, changing the wording of their declaration, which it has been going on for 2 decades, that Japan has been providing this nuclear non-proliferation wording to the General Assembly, and they say, okay, we're in a different situation now, we need to change the declaration. Well, some of the European countries go, tut, that's bad form, and other countries say, oh, you're bowing to reality, that's a good sign.
The United Nations General Assembly adopts Japan's resolution for nuclear non-proliferation. Let's see how that embellishes Japan's brand throughout the world.